It's nice to see those from Glasgow here. Yeah. There was this moment in the in London, and in their brand new building, receiving just hundreds and hundreds of airplanes a day coming through there. It's more well organized, beautiful signs, and the signs that say mind the gap, and mind this and mind that. And in observing and watching a country hundreds of years ago that was considered and really they were well developed in many ways. And one of the beautiful things that came out of England was the aspect of the lady and the gentleman. One of the most beautiful things that came out of England, the gentleman and the lady. And when you read into the history and you read into various letters of so many people that have written to their friends, because during these times their education was very good. And they wrote a lot of letters to each other hundreds of years ago, not just to their sons at war, but to their families and friends that had traveled during this time to other countries. And it's how they looked at the world and how they looked at their country. And it was so beautiful. The temperament and the choice of words, a great deal of knowledge of many different words of the dictionary that they used, and so many beautiful words that we don't use today. They've been outdated, and it's really too bad. And it was just not the lady and the gentleman, but how they looked at their world in such a way that you would not think hundreds of years ago that would be the case. And they were in their letters. There was no spite. There was no arguments. They just described the conditions for what they were, for what they saw in other countries. And for ladies and gentlemen, how these two aspects, they escaped out of England, and they started to travel more and more in through Germany and France and America and other countries, and this aspect really held up throughout the world. And the goodness that was born in this country and is so covered up now by so many other factors that have taken place in the world in the last 50 years. And to see the beauty of what the country had started, and that literally spread, and it continued on. Even it still takes place in India and in Malaysia, in Burma. They were in Burma, and how it how it penetrated America. And when you read the mass immigration that was going on in New York City for the last 150 years, and and you can see the rubbing of shoulders between the Irish and the English, the Germans and the French, and how all these countries literally helped to bring America to the point of what it is, and how not just America, but how these strong individuals, very strong personalities, each country, um, how it had literally such an effect on it. I wish you could understand and see what was it like to be born and raised as an American, and to understand the Americans a little bit better. We're born and raised in such isolation from the rest of the world. It's really quite startling, and then you begin to understand why Americans think the way that they do. And to leave the shores of America, and with open eyes as much as possible to go and not only grasp but observe and see what helped really make the Western world and what put it together, and all the little things that the generations of today don't acknowledge. The generations of today do not acknowledge it. They don't go look at it. And I know there are books out of historians and people that care, that are diving in to dig into the back streets and the alleyways and the little flats and the countryside and the farmers and the cities and really looking to retain the beauty of all these countries here. History can be very dry, and history can actually turn a lot of people off because of what has taken place. Just one sentence can make a person close the book, and to gain one little aspect of really what has taken place, what has created our world today. and to keep one's eyes open and to read not just one book, but many books. And to dive not just into the books, but into the personalness of the mindset, literally into the mindset of the people that lived hundreds of years ago, that wrote letters, beautiful letters of the world through their eyes of what they saw and viewed. It is really too easy to stay in the lifetime that we are and only think about our lives and only think about the way that we see life. And just because we find ourselves successful, or maybe not so successful, and just because we can pay our bills sometimes and eat and open up doors and laugh and have fun and go to bed and drive cars, and that does not really make us successful. Because what really made us is not in our lifetime. And not really, a lot of our decisions is not the result, what gave us our businesses, our professions, our, you could say, our discord, and the things that worked out and the things that didn't. It's really the result of the past. Literally the result of the past. You see, all these beautiful lives a very courageous people, and so many people, they never almost left their home. So many women were literally trapped in their homes. It's just how the world was back then. And some of them made the best of it. And they wrote and they looked for the little things in life that, not just the flowers and making the bread and the cookies and staying in the kitchen a lot and not just picking vegetables. And maybe just a few friends passing by in the countryside. But all human beings have the unique ability when there isn't so much stress, and they find themselves not really so much in their head, and they find themselves diving, and somehow something opened up, and they find themselves more heartful. And all of a sudden they see the world around them, whether it's just in the kitchen or right outside the kitchen window, or watching the little kids coming in and out of the doors, and and to see really the magic of life. That some people, they can travel from country to country for 2-3 decades, and they see nothing. And they come back bored, and they come back still stiff and very critical of the world. But we all have to understand that that we have two worlds inside of us. Two very, very different worlds that most people never really explained what is really taking place inside us. That is the world of our mind and the world of our heart. It's just that the constructs that literally has put our world together today, day by day, is literally the construct of the mind. And all we see is without even thinking that, we find ourselves having to work with it, because we have no choice, actually. None of us do. It's all built with a lot of good thought, a lot of good intentions, everything from pipes to highways, from highways to business. And yet underneath, it seems like there's just no end to, let's say, finding yourself in a dead-end alley inside your head or inside your life, because you're not able to go out and buy a ticket to some boat and take off and go visit the other worlds, the other beautiful countries and skins of different colors and so many different languages and ways to think. And so many people, not only just hundreds of years ago, but thousands and thousands of years ago, because it was so difficult to travel back then. 1 kilometer back then was really something. And to us, hundreds of kilometers is not a big deal. And now we can travel thousands of kilometers. But who in the world is walking? Who is the one who's walking step by step? And who are you, and how are you viewing through those eyes of yours to see? Not just something new and different, but literally to see with those eyes the magic of this life, of a planet that is rotating on its axis very, very slowly, and yet it's fast. And is turning around and around and around and around. And here we find ourselves, mothers that have hardly even left their homes. They're too caught up with too many kids. Decades and decades of less than a kilometer, a whole lifetime spent. Some never leave their villages. And yet inside the beauty of our minds, and just by maybe a little switch, a little different act has taken place inside, and that person finds himself deeper into their heart. And what has taken place in China, in Russia, clear across the other side of the planet, the beauty, the heartache, the beautiful songs, the beautiful sights that one can literally see outside those eyes, they're really somewhat very much the same of the Pygmies and even the Watutsis, the Zulus, and the Spanish and the Indians and the Portuguese, and the Germans too, all looking out very much the same eyes, manufactured pretty much biologically the same way, just to receive light. Just to receive light in those tiny little eyes of yours. And sometimes it's a grandma, usually not so many men, and I wonder why. And usually it only comes through mostly the females, in the simplicity of their lives, not only the complexity of what had literally taken place, but to be able to smile at very, very simple chairs and tables. And there isn't much in the room, actually. For the poorness that is literally, so many people have literally lived in for thousands and thousands of years that we would really consider poor. That to them, they were rich. Rich in sight. Rich to touch the worlds that they are literally living in. Rich to literally, with those eyes of theirs, to see the little faces, the little hands, and sometimes even, no doubt, the hardships that is difficult. Not only those 5,000, but to us today, the hardship has literally not changed one bit. We have so many things in our flats. We have so many things in our homes. We have so many unusual papers and plastics in our purses and wallets too. And yet we find ourselves still searching, still finding someday ways and means to open up, to make sense of the world. A little more joy, maybe a little more happiness, maybe good luck or good fortune to come our way. And yet with so many things, and even the words that we have, that we use today, maybe they're not as sophisticated and so beautiful as those that used the words a few hundred years ago. Maybe because there were less things to own. You see, we have been taught to go out and to get. You see, we have been taught to go out and find success. We have been taught that those that win and those that lose. And who wants to lose? We have been taught also to pretend, so much to pretend. Even to pretend to our left brain and right brain. And we find ways and means and all kinds and look for formulas to somehow give us a better picture inside our own heads. But whether it was 1,000,000 years ago or today, every baby that was born coming out of the womb, whether it be Chinese or Irish, whether it be Gaelic or Indian, the beautiful, simple biology of all those little babies, all born without fear and doubt, just born to receive all the light bouncing off the walls, the teepees, homes made of just sticks and sometimes cow dung, doors and walls that have holes in them. You can see what the weather is like outside. But there's no dictionary. It's not bad or good. It is only later on that we are forced to walk away from the bad and only be the good. And yet it does not exist. It is only in agreements between people, like the agreement between customs and traditions, and what is correct and what is not, what to do and what not to do. And yet we all find out there's so many customs, so many traditions, and whose is the best? Which one is the wisest? Which one is the most kind and considerate? So what I would do, I would start to dive into the past and go hunt down the people that were fortunate enough and to use that fortunate upbringing, the parents who were fortunate enough to actually teach their children the beauty of a pen, the beauty of a pencil, the beauty of even chalk and ink, and to write letters, not only to strangers and not only to loved ones, and not only to children of their own, but to write because they literally cared enough of the world that is really no different than what it is today. But to use their beauty and their sight and to bring it into our world today. To use their beauty of having the time to write. Instead of going to a pub, instead of doing something maybe that doesn't make so much sense. So many footprints disappear. And we walk right over them without even wondering whose footprint that was. And to receive the beauty of what they had seen and heard. And to be able to pass it on. One word can set a person off. One word with a particular tone can make a person explode. One word with a particular tone and a person can fall in love. One word with a particular tone. So quiet he may be, the lips don't even move. And that is coming out of you, out of the depths of your belly. The Word is born and created. Like where we were in our mother's womb. For so very long, those 9 years, but actually 90 years. That we found ourselves so protected, so loved. No worries and no concern. And yet that outer environment, from the little child to the top layer of the skin of the mother, that beautiful, beautiful protection and care. If only we could write like that. If only we could see like that. You see, it was a society that taught us how to fear what we don't have. And there's nothing to fear. It is society that taught us to hate, and there's really nothing to hate. It was society that taught us to fight, and there's really no reason to fight but to understand. And we became so identified with society that when a father or mother passes away, maybe a grandma, or somebody steals something from our flat, or somebody says a few words, or somebody walks away from us, we feel that we are nothing. And that is not so. That is not so. It is society that literally taught us with no intentions of harming us, no intentions of hate either. It is just to keep the economy going, which is so important. So, so important. The beautiful door to be born. And a most beautiful, beautiful door. Very difficult to describe. Because it seemed to happen so long ago and so magical it was that night when you were conceived. Because the moment you were conceived, you are. And yet every brick that was put together, brick by brick, cell by cell, so many decisions are being made. And it is you making the decisions inside. But not a decision to choose whether it is a color of blue and not gray. But the decisions are made very differently. That society cannot teach us so. And yet the decisions are made with our minds and heart. For they walk in unison. They see in unison. Because they're taking actually what it is to have gravity. And now we're going to live in the world where gravity is going to hold us bound to the earth, until gravity has to let us go, and it is time to leave. And these decisions are made as a result of that. Not knowing whether we're going to have 2 moons or 5 moons, and we find out we only have one. Not knowing if we're going to have 3 suns, 1 orange, 1 yellow, and 1 almost blue. And we only have one that is yellow. Not knowing if there are trees and mountains, and we find there are so many. Not knowing if there are rivers going to be like the rivers running through our veins. And yet we find the rivers are the same. Not knowing if we're going to have the fire of our nervous system from head to toe, firing whether we are asleep or laughing. And yet the lightning is striking above our heads, letting us know. What a magical world it is. All taking place inside of us you can see we have been given all that we really, really need. And as this planet Earth is rotating on its axis around and around and around, and when you use our common sense and good reason, when we used and updated the education that we can do through the internet, we can see that we are all little astronauts floating in outer space, headed in some direction. And that means there's purpose, that there's purpose. The economy cannot give us a purpose other than to survive from day to day. But when you look up into the sky at night, and you see that the stars have always been there, even in the middle of the day in the summertime, you cannot see them. But they have always been there. Eternity above your head. And in that fateful night when you were conceived with eternity and matter. Eternity and matter. What a magic blend it is. So go and read and hunt down the letters of the past. You'll even find them inscribed in stone. The Hittites and the Egyptians too. And such beautiful letters too. All speaking of the eternity and matter, much wiser than we are today, actually. And the love letters, not just of somebody else, but of the land. And the love letters of the trips. What 1 kilometer can do, and how all the landscape can change its color. And yet, 1 kilometer in our own minds and heart can take us out of the kitchen, the hardship of the kitchen sometimes, and maybe the workplace or the factory, and we find ourselves placed in our hearts, and we can see the beauty of the kitchen and the factories, and the simplicity of it, and the magic of what it is simply to be alive. Simply to be alive. Simply to be alive. Let's fire dance. I wonder who will find your letters in 100 years from now. I wonder who would read your letters 200 years from today. And I wonder what those people reading those letters, little boys, little girls, grandmas, and fathers, and mothers, and neighbors, how they would see your words. I wonder through your words, and wondering how long ago you lived. And I wonder what words you would inspire someone that just happens to be looking for those right words to help them in their life. I wonder what stories you would write that would inspire them to see their world and wonder, so long ago, someone had wisdom. And I wonder what you would say to the future. You would actually be speaking from your heart. No time. There's no difference 5,000 years ago and today. And there's no really difference 5,000 years into the future from today. You speak and you write for all times.